Huntsville, Texas on a Sunday morning. A company town in East Texas. There are 30,000 people here, 10,000 of them prisoners. 1 out of 4 residents works for a living in a prison. 230 men and 3 women are condemned to death.
Yeah, you might deter you.
People in Huntsville look with distrustful eyes on anybody who doesn't like capital punishment. Here is Sam Gilstrap. He's 74. He was the master mechanic at the Huntsville prison from 1948 to 1969. One of his jobs was to keep the electric chair in top working order. He also helped strap men into the chair. There probably is no man alive in America today who has had his hands in as many executions as Sam Gilstrap.
I've seen 125 rehabilitated.
Texas now executes people by lethal injection. But Sam Gilstrap, and many others, feels this new method is being soft on criminals.
You're how old now?
I'm 74.
And when did you start in the prison system?
1948.
48, what'd you do there?
I was a master mechanic of the prison system.
And what was your job as mechanic for the electric chair? What would you do?
Well, in other words, I checked the electric chair to be sure it worked. We checked it in the morning at 10 o'clock and at night at 10 o'clock to be sure that it was ready to go when 12 o'clock comes.
Well, how would you check it?
We had to start the motors up, and then we had a row of lights we put across the chair, and had wires onto it. Then we could take it in, you could tell in there on your meters and everything how much electricity is going through there to be sure that it was going. It's you have a positive and a negative, you know, one on your head and one on your leg.
Yeah.
And just like hooking up a battery, and then this electricity goes through there.
And, in other words, you got a positive on top of the guy's head and a negative
down there, the ground
on his
down
leg.
There. That's right.
And where would the would the light bulbs be on?
No, you wouldn't have the light bulbs then. The man was making the connection. The man was making
the man was the connection.
Yeah, he's taking the place of the light bulb.
Oh, I see, until you put it...
That's right.
Oh.
When you're testing it, you use light bulb. But when you put a man in there, the electricity is going through him, you see. In other words, I stood there because the executor knew nothing about the electrical work of a chair. All he knew to do is push the switch. And a lot of times, well, I might have to reach up, pull the juice down on it.
Pull
Turn the rheostat down, you know, where the electricity, cut the electricity down on the man.
Turn the rheostat down to cut the electricity down while he was pumping too much in there?
Yeah, in other words, he never hardly fooled with the rheostat. I said all of that myself. And then when we strapped the man in, I have strapped the man in too. And we strapped him in, I checked all the straps to be sure the man...
You would help strap the guy
I
in?
had strapped the man in.
And how many fellas did you help strap in?
125.
125.
Right. Thing of it is, I've been called from different places in the United States, and I will help people out because I don't want to see nobody that don't know anything about that would get into it and mess up someone, you know.
Or mess up an electrocution?
Yeah, the thing of it is, you can burn a man up in a chair, you see.
Well, you've got to do it so he doesn't absolutely cook.
That's right. That's right.
You mean you can burn him completely?
You burn him.
Right into a cinder?
That's right.
Tell me, do you remember the first one you strapped in?
Yeah.
And who was that?
He was a colored man, a black man.
And where did you pick him up, right when he sat down, or did you bring him into the chamber?
No, I didn't do that as guards, and they did that, you see. I was inside the chamber when they bring him in. The warden and the executor and myself would be standing with the chair. Right. And maybe 1 or 2 guards, and the doctor and the chaplain which comes in with him, you see.
Sam, how old were you then?
I was in 48, so I'm about 36 years old.
Right. And how did you feel when they brought the guy up to you?
Well, you have a feeling that you don't have anywhere else, I'll tell you. It's and I don't care how many you witness.
Yeah.
You still don't have that little feeling.
And what's that little feeling? Tell me.
Well, I don't know how to explain it and everything, but you're up sort of tight, you know. But see, we had a mask we put over his eyes. and put a piece of cotton over his mouth if he's slobbered in it, and had a string over his nose and put it around his eyes and through the chair and pull it, you see, to keep from falling over. And of course, when you unstrapped him, everything, well, he was eyes was closed. You know. When a man's back there ready to go down, and you hit the dynamo to make a moaning sound, you know, and this man walks into this cell, I mean, into the execution chamber, and he's alive all the time you strapping him in and everything. And I don't know whether it's cruel or not and everything, but I think when they give him death penalty, they give him death penalty for punishment for his crime he's committed and everything. And you take a man and bring him in there and put him on a dolly and with a needle hung in him and everything. Of course, that's humane, they claim and everything.
But you'd rather him hear the sound.
Yeah. In other words, have something to excite the man about that he's coming into the death chamber, you see, that's going to be executed.
So you'll know he did something wrong.
He did something wrong.
Well, where is the motor?
He's in the back room. Had another room behind where you had the chair. I mean, not the chair, but your levers and everything back there, switches and everything.
And in the...
and it would go right down the back of this here pipe chase. Pipe chase, where all the cells, you know, and all the commodes and everything come out. That's where they work on it back there on the pipe chase.
Yeah.
The sound that go down through them.
The sound goes through the cells?
Yeah, go down there
Is
behind
that the death row cells?
Yeah, it goes...
oh, everybody in the death row cell heard the sound, too?
They hear the sound,
yes. And who kicks the motor over to start it? You?
I did.
And how would you do that? You just...
You have two switches there.
Two switches, and then the motor would start?
That's right.
How loud a sound would it make?
It'd make a pretty good sound when you're over at midnight.
At midnight?
Yeah. Well, see, the motors are running when the man comes in.
Yeah.
When the clock strikes 12, I guess they tell you the clock up there. We had a big clock up on the tower there. And you could hear that clock all over town when it
hit 12.
back, you know.
And then what does the motor sound like?
Well, the motor had a moaning sound. It was,
imitate it, just so I'll know.
That's it, you see.
And I'm sitting in the cell, or I'm
sitting in the cell when the motors are kicked off.
And I'm the one going to be killed?
That's right.
And I hear that motor kick off?
That's right.
And how does it go again?
Well, it just makes a moaning sound.
Just do it once more. Just
like that, you know.
And I'm sitting there?
Yeah. And then when you hear that, they know it's time to come into the death cell.
Now, as I get from what you're telling me, that sound when it goes it scares not only the guy coming into the electric chair, but everybody else in the death row hears the same sound, and it reminds them what's coming for them.
See, I kick
give them a little jolt for the night.
On the day of the execution, I kick it off at 10 o'clock in the morning. They'd hear that. At night at 10 o'clock.
Oh, you give them two previews with the sound.
And then night at 12 o'clock, after that clock strikes 12, they hear it again. You see, they hear it 3 times.
And you think they should have to hear that sound?
Well, I think if he's going to have something to show that they're going to be executed, that's what I look at now. You know, instead of they come in this other way, they strap to this gurney.
Yeah.
When they come into this place, they say, now I haven't witnessed one of them, but they say they strap him back there, you know, and they bring him in there, and then when they put them in, what they put in them, then they just go to sleep, you know, and that's all it is. You know, in other words, I think if you're going to have it, they should have some punishment to it. I don't know.
Some punishment to the electric, to the execution,
that's
rather than just a needle. Wow.
So I might be wrong, I don't know,
but that's your opinion.
My opinion, that's
True. I might disagree with you, but you've said it, and you're the one that's been around.
That's right. We've seen so many of them seeing everything like that.
Did they get afraid of the sound?
Some of them do.
Yeah. Do you remember one? Tell me about one guy got afraid of the sound.
Well, it's, I was telling him, there's one man up there that died before they ever put electricity to him. I know he did because he turned as purple as he could be while he strapped him in.
Right, while you're strapping him in?
While he strapped him in. I'm sure he had a heart attack right then because he went through the procedure, you know, and executed him out.
Oh, you did it anyway?
Yeah. We don't never know how a person feels that comes through that door. Unless we went through it, and then we couldn't tell it after we went through it, you say. But we don't know how a man is going to feel when he comes through that door. He walked into the death house.
And what did he say to you before he
They
sat
don't
there?
say nothing to me when they walk in the death house.
Nothing.
Nothing.
And
You don't talk to the inmate when he walks in the death house. That's the chaplain's job to talk to him.
And he doesn't talk to you?
If he asks you a question, you don't answer him.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Have they ever asked you a question?
Yeah, they'll want to talk to you, but you don't answer.
Like what if they ask you? Tell me.
Well, they're very much the talking they'll do and everything. And I had one time, I don't know if I want to go with him, so I didn't. And a lot of them won't shake hands with you, you know.
Oh, they shake?
Yeah.
Do you shake hands with them?
No, you don't touch them.
You don't touch
You
them.
strap them in.
Just
That's right. In other words, you have nothing to do with the man when he comes through that door in the death house. The chaplain is supposed to control that, all of that, you see. And the warden will ask him if he has anything to say. And after he gets through a little speech or something out of way, and he sits down and we get through with it. Just quick, you strap him in.
is the inmate allowed to make a little speech?
Yeah.
What was? Do you remember one?
Well, not necessarily one, but they, a lot of them thank the captains and things for treating them nice and while they're in the penitentiary and on. And a lot of them do a little prayer.
What's the most you did in a week?
We, I don't know, in a week we had 3 one night.
3 in one night? How, and did they go one after the
Yeah,
other?
one right after the other. You know.
But you didn't have to start the motor for each one of them?
Yeah, you had to change electrodes. They'd be hot. I had 3 sets of electrodes in a bucket of salt water back there in a crock. And I had them sewed on these here, on the copper electrodes, you know. And you have to use a sponge, if you don't, you burn the head. Like. And you had them sewed on. Well, when the first one went down, well, I juggled them off of there. It's so hot you couldn't hardly unscrew them and everything. Took them, threw them in that salt water, got another set, squeezed the water out and put it on there. Mother come in. He got through, took the same thing, threw it back there, and she got another set.
Out of the bucket of salt water?
That's right. We had 4 that night, and one of them got a stay, 3-day stay, and he went down to, after his stay was up, you see.
So and that's 4 in a week, in other words?
We'd had 4 of them. Yeah, we had 4 that week, but we'd had 4 that night if we had got that stay. We had one night, for instance, a white man come in, and he was in the death chamber. And the man was over there, and he answered his telephone. We didn't have a telephone over then. And the governor called and gave him a 3-day stay. He made a run over there and told the warden, said, tell the governor's on the telephone, he has given this man a 3-day stay. And the next, I'd say 2 minutes, he'd been gone. You know.
Who made the run?
This fellow, he was working at the commissary. He answered the telephone. And the old man, he wasn't a very speedy kind of fellow, you know, but he run that night, ran all night, and we always called him Speedy after that, you know. He was walking in, just come in the door.
Just coming through the door?
Into the chair room. You
Boy,
know.
that was close. But he went anyway?
He went anyway, yeah.
3 days later?
3 days later.
And where would you go afterwards at night, after? Say the night you did the 3, that you worked on 3, where would you go?
Go to bed.
Go home and go to bed?
I come in one night there, and I had too much of this smell on me. I think my wife made me get out and pull my clothes off out on the porch there. And I understood what she was talking about. I couldn't smell it myself, you see, but she did when I walked through.
Your wife?
Yeah.
For the smell of the burnt flesh?
You know, when you execute, you just got a little smell, you know, that you sometimes fire jump on them, right? Don't burn them up or anything, but you got a little smell. And then that way when she hollered at me, get out, well, I just went out on the porch and dropped all my clothes off out there and walked in the house and took a shower. Went to bed.
Has it done any good? Death penalty?
I don't know where it has not. It's like it is many people murdered now as ever was. So I don't know. That's a question I don't know who could answer it.
Look, the one thing I would think about, I mean, if I worked in a job like you had, is if the guy didn't do it. That would be the only thing.
Yeah, well,
you
think about that way, but you can't let it worry you.
You can't.
You can't let it worry.
But see, I think it happens. I think that they do make a mistake. The thing of it
is, you standing there and he comes in the first time you see him when he comes through that door. And about 2 minutes, he's gone. Well, you've got 2 minutes there. You don't know where he's guilty or not guilty, do you? If he's got that far, He's bound to be something, a little guilty somewhere. I don't know, but that's not our job to tell where he's guilty or not guilty.
Your job is salt water, electrodes.
Yes, our job
kick the motor and then let's go.
That's right. That's as far as we go.
That's as far as the other guy goes, too.
Carlos de Luna, 24, is the next inmate scheduled to die at Huntsville on October 15th. I have one point. Here in New York, we do not have a death penalty. But recently, we found out that 2 people were wrongfully convicted of murder. One was Michael Featherstone, and the other was Bobby McLaughlin, who spent 6½ years in a penitentiary until a detective went out and proved that McLaughlin didn't commit the crime. That's 2 in this city. If Bobby McLaughlin had been in Texas, his bones by now would be under the dirt. There are 233 people scheduled to die in Texas. We know of 2 mistakes here in New York. Is Texas perfect? None of the 233 could possibly be innocent? That's something to think about. Because when you execute a person wrongfully, that is a frightful price to pay for revenge. When they dig the grave for the body of a man wrongfully executed by the state, and the state means us, as that dirt flies up from the shovel, it covers all of us. When we first started this show, we showed you a murder trial from Florida. Tonight, we're going to show you another trial. This one man fighting to delay the opening of a nuclear plant. That's all, nuclear. Seabrook, New Hampshire, in early light. A fishing and beach resort town on the New Hampshire-Massachusetts border, 45 miles north of Boston. The simplicity of a fishing boat, and then the water ends at the nuclear plant. Nuclear. It is a word that confuses many tongues. Listen all through this tonight and note how many times people say nuclear. They began planning the Seabrook plant 18 years ago. The builder was the Public Service Company of New Hampshire. The cost was to be $800 million for a twin reactor. Today, 1 reactor has been built at a cost of $5 billion. The second has been ruled out. Opposition to Seabrook began more than a decade ago. After the 3 Mile Island accident, a cataract of men, women, and children rushed to Seabrook. In 1981, a law was passed requiring a public hearing, an impact study, and a fund for nuclear waste disposal and any closing and cleaning of the plant, whether from accident or because it has become too radioactive from use. This is called decommissioning. You'll notice that in the year 1981, all these orders, all these bare statements on nuclear power were concerned only with money. For how could a leader talk about public safety when it was irrelevant to nuclear plants? Nobody had been killed at 3 Mile Island, nuclear power people pointed out, and therefore the plants were safe, and thus, of course, the public was safe. Worry then about the cost in money. A 1982 deadline was set for the power company to hold its public hearings and issue its report. There was no study, no public hearings on nuclear waste disposal or decommissioning the Seabrook nuclear plant. This brought back the people who marched and sang and voted. And then Robert Rennie Cushing led people into civil disobedience.
We'll be breaking a law, but it'll be answering a higher law. The time is now. The plant has been given the okay to go ahead. I went fishing with my brother Kevin at that same site. It was a nice Saturday afternoon. We gone clamming, and we just said, you know, we can't do it. We're just going to have to stop them.
This, too, failed to stop construction of the plant. For the past decade, Cushing had worked indefatigably and apparently had failed, And then this New Englander took one last try. The other day, with fuel being loaded into the Seabrook reactor, Cushing went to court. He's not a lawyer, but he used one of the oldest legal devices, one going back to English common law, a petition for mandamus. This writ mandates a government official to carry out the law whether he wants to or not. Cushing asked for his state government to follow the law and see that there was a public hearing and a study over the cost of the Seabrook plant. Of course, Cushing thinks of explosion and radiation before money, but he had to restrict his plea to the law, and the law on nuclear power deals mainly with money. So here, at the end of 18 years, was an adventure in American democracy. One man, Robert Rennie Cushing, not a lawyer, just a citizen, entering his courthouse, Rockingham County Superior Court in New Hampshire, where the trial of Cushing versus the governor, John Sununu, and his administration began. Cushing asked for a writ of mandamus. What he really was talking about was Chernobyl. If you want to observe democracy at an important moment, watch Cushing's day in court. The judge is the Honorable Vincent Dunn. The plaintiffs, Robert Cushing and Michael King, who has joined the case with Cushing. And for the State Utility Commission, lawyer Alexander Kalinsky. The first to speak is the New Hampshire Assistant Attorney General Peter Foley.
The standard in governing the issuance of a subpoena to a high government official such as Governor Sununu is that the burden is on the plaintiff to show a compelling reason to support the requiring the testimony of the governor in this case. This standard will require the plaintiff to make a clear showing that the governor's testimony is necessary to prevent injustice or prejudice to the plaintiff. He cannot meet his burden of showing a compelling reason for the governor to appear in this case. The governor simply has no involvement in the issue that he has presented to the court. The plaintiff has clearly taken a frivolous course by subpoenaing the governor to this hearing, and the state should be awarded its fees and costs.
My name is Robert Cushing, and I am not a lawyer. I'm the grandson of Daniel Cushing and Elizabeth Reynolds, a carpenter and a factory worker from Manchester, who came to Hampton Beach in 1920 on their honeymoon and never left. I'm a product of 12 years of public education in the school district 5 miles down the road. And during my 12 years of education in the public schools of this state, I learned a few simple civic lessons. I learned that this is a democracy where the people rule, that a revolution was fought against a tyrant 200 years ago, and that out of that was forged a basic document. It's called the Constitution. It outlines some simple things. We elect a legislature to make laws, and we elect a governor who the Constitution requires to faithfully execute the laws. And then we have a third party called the judiciary, where a person is entitled to a legal remedy when the law has been violated, and he can obtain justice freely, completely, and promptly. For 4 generations, my family has lived in Rockingham County. Our taxes have built this building. It's the place that my civic lessons told me that when I needed to, I could come here and find justice. I am sickened that the governor has claimed the violation of the Decommissioning Act is a frivolous matter. We're not talking about a snack tax. We're not talking about the size of lobsters. We're not talking about the limit on the amount of clams that can be taken. We're talking about radiation. We're talking about something that's going to be a danger for tens of thousands of years. We're talking about billions of dollars, Your Honor. The legislature has made a mandate. The governor has ignored it. Now he is telling the court that it does not have to come before it to testify why he has violated his constitutional obligations. He is not above the law. He is not above the Constitution. That man
whose picture hangs over there, Daniel Webster, said, "There is nothing so powerful as truth. The people need to know the truth from John Sununu." And finally, most importantly of all, justice. Justice requires his presence here.
We'll go ahead and take a brief recess while we take these matters under advisement.